Hi, this lesson is for Monday. This is on completing the square. Okay, so when you complete the square with a quadratic, you're trying to make it into a perfect square trinomial, meaning two binomials, the exact same thing that you'd multiply by themselves. How this is going to start out with is you might have x squared plus 10x, and then they put a plus c. They want you to say, what would c have to be to make this a perfect squared trinomial? Best way to look at this is I'm going to rewrite it, x squared plus 10x, and I'm going to have plus, I'm not going to have anything there. This is what I want you to do. If you look at, make sure that this lead coefficient is 1. If it's not, then it's going to have to be something else at a later date. Right now, half of our b term, half of that term, in this case, half of 10 is 5. 5 squared is 25. That's all you have to do. So you take half of this term, square whatever the half of that would be, put it in your space. Okay. The reason why this is now a complete square is if I were to factor this, this would be x plus 5 times x plus 5. If you were to FOIL this out, you would get x squared plus 10x plus 25. So that's the first step. The next things that we're going to do is they will ask you to say, if I had x squared plus 16x, and then they're just leaving this blank. Before we had a c there. So what do we need to fill into that blank to make a perfect square trinomial? Half of our b term, as long as our a term is 1, which it is, half of our b term is 8. 8 squared is 64. So this is our perfect square trinomial. Again, if we were to make this into two binomials by FOIL or factoring it, we get x plus 8 and x plus 8. Now we might ask you to solve using by completing the square. So let's say we had x squared plus 10x minus 3 is equal to 0. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to move my constant term over to the other side. So I'm just going to subtract it. So I get x squared plus 10x. And remember, your constant is the term that does not have a letter attached. Once I move it over, I'm still going to leave that space there. So this is going to be equal to positive 3. So I get x squared plus 10x blank plus 3. Now we're going to go ahead and complete the square. Half of 10 was what? 5. 5 squared is 25. So I'm going to go plus 25. And what I add to one side of the equal sign, I have to add to the other side. Okay? So this right here is my perfect square trinomial. So what two numbers would multiply together give me 25, add together give me 10. So this is going to be the same thing as x plus 5 times x plus 5. And x plus 5 times x plus 5 is x plus 5 quantity squared. And that's going to be equal to 28. Now you might remember from the other day, how did we solve this equation when given the squared term? Well, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Remember, this side will have plus or minus. So I'm going to get x plus 5 is equal to plus or minus. We got to break 28 down. 28 is going to break down to square root of 4 times 7. The reason I do that is 4 is our largest perfect square. So the square root of 4 is 2. So this is going to become 2 root 7. Now I just need to subtract the 5. So I'm going to get x is equal to negative 5 plus or minus 2 square root 7. And that's my exact answer. I'm not asking you to go and find this what 2 times square root 7 is equal to as a decimal. Okay? So that's what happens when your lead coefficient is 1. Let's see what we have to do if our lead coefficient is not 1 and we want to solve this. So if the lead coefficient is not 1 and we wanted to solve it, this is what we have to do. So let's say we had 3x squared plus 5x minus 7 is equal to 0. Okay, let's start this out the same way as the other one. Let's move the constant over to the other side. So the negative 7 needs to move over. So I'm going to now get 3x squared plus 5x. I'm going to leave that space is equal to 7. Okay, next term is I want my lead coefficient to be 1. So 3 and x squared are being multiplied together. So I'm going to divide all terms of this part of the problem, no matter what side of the equal sign it's on, by 3. That will then allow that to cancel out, and this is going to result in x squared plus 5 over 3x is equal to 7 over 3. Please notice I left it as fractions. I didn't change it to decimals. This is going to be a lot easier if you think, if I wanted to take half of a fraction, you double the denominator. So half of 5 over 3, double the denominator, bottom, so that's going to be 5 over 6. 5 over 6 is half of 5/3. So what is 5 over 6 times 5 over 6, or 5 over 6 squared? 5 over 6 squared is going to be 25 over 36, right? So if I add 25 over 36 to one side, I have to add it to the other. This is now my complete square. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can factor that. Watch how easy this will be. I'm going to write x plus, put this in parentheses, what was half of 5 over 3? 5 over 6, that goes right here every time. And then you're going to combine this so you realize, get a common denominator, so multiply by 12 times 12. So that's going to give you 84 plus 25 over 36. And that's going to give you, that's what, 109 over 36. So you get 109 over 36. You go and solve this now. You're going to take the square root of each side. Remember, you're going to have plus or minus over here. So the square root of 109, I don't know. We're going to leave it as that. But the square root of 36 is 6. So now you're going to have x plus 5 over 6 is equal to this. Bring the 5 over 6 over. So I'm going to get x equals negative 5 plus or minus root 109 all over 6. So I combined the fractions together because they were the same denominator. And that's a brief look at completing the square. We'll work more with it when I come back on Tuesday, so please make sure the worksheet is done for you. Mr. Padovic is going to do a great job teaching you how to do this as well. This is just a supplement to what he had taught. Have a great weekend. Bye.